You're listening to the ASOTU CON Sessions by Effectv, recorded live in Philly.
So we're here on ASOTU CON Sessions by Effectv, and I'm here with my good friend Jim Cook, who actually I took over his role at a dealership years ago,
many moons,
and now we're working together, both outside of that dealership.
I know,
so,
this is a kind of a full circle moment.
So
here.
Just a second ago, he just looks at me, and we're just sitting here kind of chopping it up, and we weren't going to record a podcast, and he goes, robots should just take over. and I think my thought to that is agree.
Yes.
For all of the tasks that require decision making, of which should be rote. If everything that a human was required for was the empathetic level of things, the relational level of things, and clearing the air on decisions that we should be able to leave to yes, no answers based on processes and understanding of the dial.
You should have an if then statement for almost most of your like used car buying. You know, if this, then we should do this. I would think. You know, like you should have built in, so you take the emotion out of all of it. If you can take the emotion out of, you know, it would just be like hedge fund managers.
Well, we heard this conversation this morning in All Things Used Cars that was essentially, okay, there are some dealers out there that still consider a car that could be purchased something that they just, quote unquote, don't want.
Yeah.
Yet there are other dealers that are struggling to find inventory at every cost. And so what you're saying is, hey, if you just leave that up to the decision-making process of that, to some sort of if-then statement, then all the human has to do is interact, is finalize things, right?
Yeah.
So Jim was also telling me that you wrote a business plan in, what, 2006?
2006. I spelled out, I was working at the dealership, and we were, and it was back in the days of 5 pictures, crappy pictures on a thing, and then you would just, and then the 3% of your business was like probably online. Yeah. And it was like 97% walk in the door. And we all know in 2008, like when the market hit,
fell out,
it just booged. I was actually sitting in like the general sales manager position, and I wrote out this Jerry Maguire letter to our general manager, this big like mission statement saying, I'm firing myself and making myself the internet manager. And I was like, I'm going to do it because here's the deal. If I don't do this and we don't put it, we always back in the day put an internet manager. It was like a guy who could sell a lot of cars, right-ish. And then we're like, oh, you could sell a lot of cars. Let's put you as the internet manager.
Yeah, because you're probably good.
You probably could
computers
do this.
And
sure.
stuff,
Yeah.
Right.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. You have an AOL account, right? Okay, cool. You're good. So that was the internet manager back then. And then, so they were like, why would you demote yourself down to internet manager? I'm like, because it's the only front door moving forward, you idiots.
That's it. Yeah.
I was like, if you don't understand. And so they put my pay plan based on thinking that like this small percentage is going to sliver.
Right. And you were like,
we had to have like 4 conversations over the next few months of like, you're making more than owners. Now we need to talk.
Right.
We need to talk about your, because if you put a type of attention to it and creativity to it, and the bar was so low. I mean, we all know that like dealers, they're so slow to change. Yeah. It's littered, but there are some that will. Now it's not.
There
that
are some of the
change.
innovative ones,
yeah.
But
if you went down to 2006, no. Yeah. 2006, nobody was changing. There was, CarMax was kind of like, oh, that's cute. But so I wrote this big thing. I'm like, what if we just didn't ever have to go to a dealership anymore? What if we could just, if we had that mindset of retailing things of just, and then all of a sudden I saw like later on when I was out of the industry, I saw Carvana show up, and I'm like, mother effers. I was like, I
love how you put that though. What if we didn't have to?
Yeah,
but we could. But what if we didn't have to?
Yeah.
What if there was a way?
Yeah, we could just
you
transact.
could do anything. You were like the originator of Omni-channel. You just didn't know it.
Well,
right?
Here's the deal. Here's the full 360. I'm on a flight from Italy to Hawaii. It's a long one. I had to go Italy, Atlanta, Hawaii. I went the whole thing. And I was in the process. I owned a C8 Corvette, and I was wanting to, because the market's been hot, I would sell it and then get a Defender. Yeah. And those are 2 cars that you can kind of make money on right now. And so I've been playing the game. So I literally did the whole entire transaction on a 30,000 foot flight, Delta flight, with Wi-Fi, completely did all the negotiating through iMessage, completely signed contracts in the air, sent back everything completed, finished. Between Atlanta to Hawaii, took about 3 hours because there's it's slow, we were doing all iMessage, negotiated everything out. And then when I came back the week later, I drove up there, swapped cars, came back.
Easy. Unbelievable.
They gave me $20,000 over what I paid for a C8. I mean, let's make it happen.
That's the way of business is right now. So I think there is a role of technology and a role of human, and you've seen it across the world, both inside and outside of the automotive industry. If you had an encouragement for like the next phase of auto, where would you say that, like in your perception of, I've been in auto and I've been outside of auto, I've seen the way companies like Qualcomm and stuff like that.
I would say right now, it feels like, and even in this conference, not from you guys, but it feels like the Teslas and the Carvanas and some of these big box things that are figuring out, it feels a little still us and them. And it feels like it needs to be we. And I feel like you guys need to bring it into we, because like, they're obviously figuring something out, because you guys live, or not you guys, but the auto industry has left a door open for innovation.
Yeah.
And because they're like, hey, there's money in this space.
So why not accept them as part of it?
Accept them and bring them in and become like, they've got things to learn from you guys. Like Tesla can't build a car that is like, feels like a Mitsubishi Eclipse with an iPad. I mean, it's it's a terrible car that's overpriced. But I mean, it is for what they charge for it. And like, they have things to learn on driving dynamics, and they have things to learn from BMW and things like how to build a great car. But then they've got some processes. They didn't know what to do. Just like the innovation talk from Jim, like they just innovated. They're like, well,
because they had to.
They had to. You can't. We need to sell these things more efficient than this old way.
Yeah.
So I feel like they both could learn from each other, and then from that, I think just the consumer would just benefit. As soon as, I mean, whatever's benefiting this consumer is the right way to go.
Hey, look, you couldn't have ended that on a more perfect note. Jim, well, thanks for turning on the mic with me. That was fun. Being on
By the way, I'm the one
sessions.
videotaping all their sessions right now. This is pretty hilarious.
This guy is unbelievable. Thanks, Jim.
Brother.